Thank you, Jim. Wellspring International was established in 2004 by Ravi Zacharias International Ministries. My guest is the director of this humanitarian arm of the organization. Naomi Zacharias is also daughter of the founder. She helped to launch Wellspring from a very interesting position at the White House, 1 week before you turned 26. Tell us, Naomi, what were you doing there?
Yeah, I went to the White House to do an internship. So I was working for the Office of Public Liaison, which that was under President George W. Bush. And my job was basically to help plan briefings that reached out to different constituency groups. And so they would bring in these groups, and the president and other members of staff would kind of brief them on the issues that concern them and give them an opportunity to relate back to them. And that's where I just became really, I guess I would use the word, just felt a passion for international women's and children's issues, because it opened my eyes so much to these things going on around the world that I just had no idea the kinds of atrocities that were happening.
I get a sense of your pace when you say in your book that a 12-hour day went by in what felt like a few hours.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience, and I'm so glad I had it, because it just stretches you so much. You know, there's no room for error. No one holds your hands or, you know, holds your hand and explains how to do anything, but you have to get it done right, and I loved it. It was a great opportunity.
You were offered a position in the Justice Department, but as you've said, your heart was turned in a new direction by some Afghani women.
Yeah, it was, I will never forget that experience, and it was while I was doing the internship, and we had a briefing. It was actually a time for President Bush to welcome, it was about 25 women from Afghanistan that the U.S. had brought over to educate. So they were going to teach them, give them computer training, and then they would have that skill to take back home with them. And so it was an event where the media wasn't allowed. President Bush didn't want the media in the room, and so he came in to welcome these women and was standing there to say hello to them, and he was clearly just surprised by their reaction. They actually got down on their knees and were kissing his shoes and trying to kiss his feet, and just the tears just streamed down his face. And I was standing at the back of the room, and it's a small room, and so I felt like part of what was happening there, and it just struck me so much. And you could tell he was uncomfortable. He wanted them to stand up and was trying to tell them they didn't need to do that, they could stand. But it just impacted me so much, just to see, to see their brokenness and their gratitude for someone that they felt was giving them an opportunity and showing them some respect. And it was just an amazing sight to see.
You have a heart for justice, that's very clear. And you've got your dad's DNA when it comes to philosophy.
I don't know about that.
Oh boy, I'm working with you through this.
People are going to be disappointed now.
No, they're not. The scent of water, grace for every kind of broken. How many countries do you take us to?
Oh, in that book, I think probably maybe 8 countries in the book. Right now we've got projects in 10 countries that are current, and overall for Wellspring we've had them in about 20 countries since 2004.
And what we're going to discover is these are not just broad stroke, overwhelming needs. These are people. These are personal encounters with individuals who break your heart.
That was, I think, important to us from the beginning. It was personal. It was a personal calling. It was a personal mission, and something that we felt committed to do and wanted to invite others to come along with us, to join us in this kind of ministry to people around the world. But it's always been personal to me.
The opening pages, we find you on a beach in Southeast Asia, 6 weeks after the tsunami.
Right.
That took 160,000 lives. February 2005 is where your story starts. Your traveling starts. And you make a statement, the opportunity to lose something of myself drew me here.
Yep, and I think it was actually, the writing experience was almost very therapeutic, because as I had to go back and put it in writing, I could see kind of these threads woven together. I think what brought me to this place was kind of a combination of that experience at the White House, just as a human being, feeling a responsibility to respond to these kinds of issues that were going on, and particularly as a woman who lives in a country and a context where I feel like I have a voice, and felt an obligation to use that voice on behalf of other women who didn't have that. But it was combined really with my own brokenness. brokenness, and life had not turned out the way that I thought it should, or the way that it was supposed to, and I was really in a place struggling to accept the life that was mine. I didn't want it. It was not the story that I wanted, and I couldn't, I really couldn't come to terms with that myself. And so I think this opportunity to leave and to go away into these places of brokenness, it wasn't that being around someone with greater pain or different pain than mine made me feel better, but it gave me an opportunity to forget my own world and to get lost in the life of another and try to do for them what I really couldn't seem to do for myself.
We look at your youth, your beauty, your intelligence, and we say, okay, what's so wrong here? What could have been that bad? And we'll just say that it was a divorce. Mm-hmm. It was painful. You use the statement, I felt sentenced to an eternity of being a lesser person. Mm-hmm. There was so much shame to overcome, and you work it through in this whole journey.
Yeah, it's been such an unexpected journey, because it was going to these very dark places in the world, and I knew I was going to find sadness. I did not expect to find beauty in these very unexpected places, and I guess that was it, witnessing beauty in the life of others, but I almost found a kind of redemption, I think, in my own life, and was able to kind of accept the life that was mine and see a purpose that God had and accept a grace in it. I think divorce it's hard to articulate, I think, even in especially a short amount of time, but it is a heartbreak. I think it's a kind of death. And I think in the church, we really struggle with how to respond to people who are going through that. And so I think I felt very alone. You're kind of going through this process of something dying, something that you always thought would be there, a dream that you always thought would be there, something that you've given yourself to, and it's gone. Your sense of identity is gone. And not only is that gone, but a new label comes on you instead, where I think I felt very alienated, I think, by the church and rejection there. And so it was difficult to find a place where I felt I could fit. And I think when I went to these places, there was a part of just the sense that being around brokenness kind of felt like home, even though my story was different. And I learned that too. Like, people will often say, like, was it difficult to talk to women in prostitution when you don't have that experience? You didn't have that same story. And it's funny to me, because the women that I've talked to have never asked me that. And I think we put that on ourselves, and we put this kind of fear, and if we can't identify exactly, maybe we have nothing to offer. But I had a broken story, and they had their story, and we actually found like a kind of a sameness. Just
you found you had more in common than you ever would have expected.